How cartels work with the Mexican government. Beautiful day because Trap University has uploaded once again.
Corrupt. Is the Mexican government corrupt?
Hell
Yes,
yeah!
partially. But are they actually cooperating with the deadliest cartels in Mexico? In May, a music group from Mexico was on tour before they went missing. On their last social media post, they were singing at the McAllen Hidalgo International Bridge, which is the crossing point between Texas and the Mexican state of Tamaulipas. They were standing on the Mexican side of the border, and possibly this same night at around 10 p.m., they were kidnapped in the city of Reynosa, and days later, all 5 bodies were found, possibly burned. Then, during a missing...
See, look, that's why you can't mess with the cartel. There's a dude who literally, in the middle of a live performance, got a letter saying that, oh yeah, your nuts are mine. I'm chopping off your head tonight. This is the last time you ever sing. I think it's because he wasn't supposed to perform. And the fact that he performed, the cartel literally said off with his head. They start doing things that are beyond human comprehension. They pull a scalp off his dome. They start grabbing your intestines and start pulling out in front of you. And then they burn your body, send your intestines to your family members, and act like you never existed. Oh my God. Like it makes me sick thinking about messing with the cartel. They start doing things. They start making your body move in ways that you didn't know was possible. And you're never seeing the end of it. You think they make waterboarding and Batman look like fairy tales compared to what they do to
A person search in the city of Irapuato using radar and cadaver dogs. The dogs made a discovery of 17 bodies. My God. The state that this happened in is simultaneously a tourist destination and the deadliest state in Mexico. So we have 22 deceased in 2 incidents that happened in the same week, within 2 days of each other, actually.
Oh my God.
And then when I first saw this
22
video,
bodies,
I had no idea.
22 bodies in 1 week. These got a canine unit or a swarm. They literally got a swarm. If you know about that Black Ops 2, you know 22 bodies in 1 week. Oh my goodness.
Idea what I was looking at until I read that this is actually a Mexican police department and the Gulf Cartel working in cooperation. I had a recent comment stating that I should shed some light on the fact that the cartels in Mexico aren't just thugs, because some of them are actually politicians, or at least working alongside the government. There were 35 politicians murdered all during the 2024 election cycle in Mexico, with many of these likely being a result of multiple cartels. Now, a couple things I want to touch on first is Mexico being called a narco state, and where the cartel gets all this military equipment. Now, at first, I didn't think the term narco state was fair in describing Mexico, because of course many people in the Mexican public are against the existence of cartels, and some have even formed militias to fight against them. Also, all politicians are not complicit in collusion with the cartels, as some have even been killed for speaking against them. Now, a narco state normally refers to a country whose economy is dependent on the drug trade, and that's not entirely true for Mexico, as the country generates about $30 billion each year from tourism alone. But looking at it in a less narrow sense, a narco state doesn't necessarily mean that the entire country is involved. It just means that all legitimate institutions such as local government and police became penetrated by the drug trade. Now, according to a data leak in Mexico from 2022, there was allegedly a top law enforcement officer taking a $250,000 a year salary from a cartel to protect them, which tells me 2 things. 1, $250K is probably how much it costs the cartels to pay for a police department. And 2, if they're willing to pay this much to one guy for his department to look the other way, there must be some departments that don't look the other way. But we know that, as clashes between cartels and the military or local police are well documented on several videos. And this same leak also seemingly provides an answer to my second question, as the leak also alleges that some soldiers in the military were actually documented selling weapons to the cartel. Now, it's well known.
See, and Trap University is one brave soldier. I will say that, because now that I'm really thinking about it, the horrors beyond human comprehension that they could inflict upon this dude for even reporting about this, they get wind of you talking about them, and next thing you know, your ear is gone and it's sent to your mom for $50,000 with a note saying, you know, your beautiful baby boy that you cared for 9 months and named Trap University was speaking on the guys. And since he couldn't listen to us, hopefully you'll listen to us. Here's his ear. One brave dude this man is. He can never show his face. I'm just thinking about all the things that could probably happen to him. God forbid that does happen to him. I like this channel so much. Please don't get rid of him. But he's speaking out and giving away their secrets and stuff. He might just I don't know. He might just be screaming "Viva Mexico" for the rest of his life. Like, goddamn, bro.
That a lot of their firearms come from gun smugglers in the U.S., and this is not including the U.S. military operation known as Fast and Furious, where in an attempt to sell and then track illegal
Fast and Furious,
the U.S.
like
allowed
the
nearly
racing movie?
2,000 weapons to be smuggled into Mexico to track them, but they ended up losing over 1,000 of them, some of which were used on Mexican citizens, and at least one of them almost shot down a helicopter. Sorry, 4 helicopters. This was a 6 terabyte leak orchestrated by an anonymous group in Mexico. And this is just over the military. Recently, the U.S. banned the governor of Baja California from entering the United States due to some alleged involvement in illegal activities by either her husband, or both of them. And this led to a fake list coming out alleging that several members of the Mexican government have been banned from entering the U.S., which the U.S. Embassy in Mexico has since debunked. What hasn't been debunked is Mexico's former president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Now, the DEA...
Oh, he lucky. Get it. Wait, hold on. What do you say?
Entering the U.S., which the U.S. Embassy in Mexico has since debunked. What hasn't been debunked is Mexico's former president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador.
Andrés Manuel López... What, Lador?
Now, the
hey, he killed that though.
Known as an operative on drug charges in 2010. And to avoid federal prison, this operative agreed to provide the DEA with information on an operation he was a part of, in which the operative helped deliver cash donations to Obrador.
Oh, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Beautiful pronunciation by TrappUniversity, no glaze.
During his first presidential campaign, on behalf of an unnamed cartel, referring to them as one of the country's biggest drug mafias. $2 million in donations.
I'm not gonna lie, hearing him say his name like that kind of just make me wanna...
Lost the election. Now, he eventually did run again and win, and this president, as well as his party, the National Regeneration Movement, also known as Morena, have come under a lot of scrutiny, such as when the families of missing people stated that the former president was downplaying how many people actually go missing each year, as well as these same families stating that many of their loved ones who are missing do not appear on the registry of missing people. Regardless of this controversy, the party still rules today, with the current president being a member. So one of the most well-known cartels is the Gulf Cartel, and I want to speak on them to show the difference between corruption and defection. Now, a politician taking campaign money from the cartel, or a police commander taking a paid salary to protect the cartel while still being employed by the government, that is corruption. But what happened to Rolando Lopez Salinas was a result of defection, and I guess the entire formation of the Los Zetas cartel. Now, we know what a defector is, right? For example, when a person escapes from North Korea to live a better life in South Korea or anywhere else, they're known as defectors. The same with a soldier who switches sides and joins the country he was fighting against. Now, Rolando was a high-ranking member of the Gulf Cartel, and he was killed in 2018. But about 20 years before that, he was the subject of multiple assassination attempts. Now, the Gulf Cartel and Los Zetas used to be one, with Los Zetas being formed from members of the Mexican Special Forces that defected from the military to become the enforcement wing of the Gulf Cartel. Now, due to a disagreement, an enforcer in Los Zetas convinced 34 members of the Special Forces to help him assassinate Rolando. 7 of them arrived at Rolando's safe house around 1999, where during a shootout, one of them shot a gas tank causing an explosion, but Rolando was able to escape. Now, Los Zetas is known for their brutal military tactics, and Rolando knew that he had to take extra precautions. The next year, him and his security were traveling in an armored Escalade when they noticed 2 cars with their hoods raised as if they were having engine problems, while in fact, they were actually just blocking the road to set up an ambush. But due to the vehicle being bulletproof, Rolando once again survived the attack, and these attacks relentlessly continued from 1999 to 2018 until he was finally killed. But that just sums up how dangerous certain cartels are, due to the fact that Special Forces operatives have defected and become their own crime syndicate. But I feel that the best way to find people who work in the government and with the cartels is to look toward one of the most unsuccessful wars in history, the war on drugs. Officially beginning in 1971, since then cartels and mafias have only become more powerful and wealthy, because you can't just take out a leader since another one will follow, and you can't destroy a cartel that makes a lot of money if you have too many poor people that need work. And once blood is shed, like it has been for several decades, the seeds of chaos are already sown. So this brings us to a guy named Genaro Garcia Luna. He was a big-time government
Senador
employee,
Garcia
so
Luna!
big that for 6 years he was the Secretary of Public Safety in Mexico, a position that doesn't even exist anymore, probably because of him. This position put Gennaro over the Federal Police Force, or the Federales, basically the FBI of Mexico. Now, from 1989 to 2000,
Bro,
he
it's
worked
like,
for the National Intelligence
it's such a
Center,
good thing
which
that
is like
he
the
at least
CIA of
tries to
Mexico.
pronounce
And in
it.
2000, he was
And
named
he don't
the
just
Director
like
of
be like,
Culinary
oh, nah, bro, I don't
Operations for the
speak
Federal
Spanish. Like,
Judicial
he's
Police
so
Force. But within 5
culturally
years, he
tapped
already
in.
had his first scandal
Bro, I
when he
mess with
staged
Trap
a
University,
kidnapping
bro.
rescue. Live. Turns out the actual kidnappers were already in custody, and quickly moving past that scandal, he started to raise eyebrows when he was acquiring luxury items like new cars and a mansion,
And as
he
much
was unable
as
to
I
account
know,
for all of this money as it was well beyond the means of a Mexican civil servant's salary. This is all while he was a leading figure in the Mexican drug war. But somehow he managed to leave office without being investigated, and within a year, departments have been dissolved, and he was named one of the most corrupt politicians in Mexico in 2013. But he and his wife took their money and retired in Miami, Florida. But then in 2018, during the trial of El Chapo, an associate of El Mayo testified that Gennaro had been in fact bribed by the Sinaloa cartel when they were bringing him suitcases filled with millions of dollars. This man was over the department with the biggest budget from the Mexican government. He was one of the most senior members of government, and he was actively on the payroll of the Sinaloa cartel. And for some reason, after all of this came out in U.S. federal court, he continued to stay in the United States, probably thinking that the federal case in New York was too far to reach him in Florida. But of course, nowhere is too far for the feds, and 10 months after El Chapo was found guilty, Gennaro, for some reason, went to Dallas, Texas, where he was promptly arrested by the FBI. Shortly after this, Mexico wanted him extradited, but the feds had other plans, and currently he is sitting in federal prison in Virginia. And in 2025...
Yeah, that's a lie. He got sent straight to Guantanamo Bay. They put a potato sack bag over his head and just started dumping all the water out. El Chapo was one of the most wanted men of all time. Like, probably behind Mr. 1930s Germany and who else? Who else? Pablo Escobar. El Chapo's up there. And if this man had anything to do with El Chapo and his escapes and all that stuff, he's in Guantanamo Bay getting treated. He's getting his 8th Amendment right violated. He is getting all types of unusual punishment. And waterboard is not even the worst thing, but TOS, I can't go any further than that. I'm not going to lie.
A Florida court ordered Gennaro to pay $748 million to the Mexican government, while his wife was ordered to pay $1.7 billion. US dollars. I'm not sure if the Sinaloa paid them that well, but I think the point was kind of to bankrupt them. It's pretty much overkill though, since he was already serving 38 years, and the more data leaks that come out, the more confirmation we'll get for what we pretty much already believe is going on. Now, there are several Mexican politicians that have been accused of taking bribes, but is this really corruption? Well, yeah. I mean, you can argue that some of them might be underpaid, but you can also argue that when the cartel comes to you with a proposition, it may be one that you can't refuse, because it seems like with the power and equipment that cartels have, they don't actually have to negotiate with you, as politicians being killed is fairly common. In fact, during the reign of the current president, a very high-level politician was killed. So could a lot of these politicians just be simply...
Did that just say beheading? Oh, hold on.
With you, as politicians being killed is fairly common. In fact, during the reign of the current president, a very high-level politician was killed.
I'm telling you, bro, you mess with them, you speak on them, you speak on the guys, they are coming for your head and mailing it in. They are sending it in the mail to your closest loved ones. It's going to look like something out of a horror movie. You don't want to mess with this stuff.
So could a lot of these politicians just be simply coerced into taking these bribes, or else? Because again, if the cartel offers you a bribe and you refuse, they could look at this as you actually going against them, and you can end up in a ditch. The line is very blurred between what these
what they will do to you if they think you're going against them. You will look like you walked into Mortal Kombat and lost the game. You got not even a fatality, bro, a brutality. You got all your limbs in different places. They hit you with a noob Cybot X Scorpion tag team finisher fatality in the worst way possible. The right side of your brain is across the room. Your butt cheeks are on the ceiling. Your intestines are out and on the ground, and they have you stabbing yourself with a sword on some Japanese going out with honor type stuff. Absolutely crazy stuff, bro.
Politicians actually have control over, and if they're willingly taking bribes or forcefully, because there's just no way that I believe that a politician can sit here and bargain with the cartel over how much they should pay him. It's probably the other way around, and the cartel just makes enough money to make the offer handsome. But there's much more I could say on this, and if you guys like this video, let me know, and we could do an even deeper dive on whether cartel corruption goes all the way to the office of the president, which I'm sure many Mexicans would agree it does. But thanks for watching, guys.
Trap University, I love this video. I love all your videos, bro. Please, I mean, for the safety of you, as long as you never show your face, I guess, like, you can dive deeper into this stuff, but bro, oh my goodness, I don't want to be saying RIP Trap University, like one of the best YouTubers at the moment. How Cartels Work with the Mexican Government by Trap University. Again, I can't overstate how good this channel is. Check out my links in the description. Check out the Twitch, East St. Larry, all platforms. Appreciate y'all for watching the video.